the south of the island of Jamaica stretched the Hellshires Hills, one of the world's last dry forests, which for years had been the uncontested territory of the iguana. With the arrival of Europeans in the 19th century came new species of animals, which are slowly leading to the iguana's extinction. In the 1950s, even scientists thought the Jamaican iguana had disappeared for good. Then one day in 1990, a dog belonging to Edwin Duffus, a wild boar hunter, came back with a strange animal between his teeth.
I went on this trail for 8 weeks straight. And at the end of the 8 weeks, that's the time I found iguana. But every week that I keep coming, I keep catching pigs. So each time I catch a pig, I turn back. Each time I come the other week, I catch a pig, I turn back. So it's only, and if I have never catch iguana down here, might be at the same time, I will be going straight down to Malante Bay. I realized that it's not possible for me to come back here because the dog would kill iguana. First, when I catch iguana, I never know what it was. I never see it before. First come to my mind, when I saw it, I say, wonder what it was. But I say, the looks that it have, it was so pretty. I tried to scare the dog off it, put it up. But what really matters me is that when catching it, take it home, went up by Hope Zoo, said to the manager, she said, no, there's nothing, there's no iguana in Jamaica. So I started to describe it to her and she said, no. So she showed me on a slide, she showed me a green lizard, she showed me a green iguana, and then she showed me our iguana. And then we said to her, yes, this is the one, and she said, no. And I went up there from 7 o'clock in the morning, and she has never come to my house until 7 o'clock in the evening, because she said, no, it is not there. That's a lie. I said, no, come and look. Well, finally they come. When she come, she couldn't believe. She held on to me and gave me a big hug.
The zoo director alerted the authorities and learned that the Cyclura cole, an iguana indigenous to Jamaica, had become a protected species. For Edwin, this meant the beginning of a new life. He left his job at the chicken factory where he had worked for 24 years, left his rifle and his hunting dogs at home, and became the official iguana guardian.
He was being beat up on.
Yeah, yes,
and so they took him and put him in here. You see his mouth is just healing up. You can see how
Every year in September, after the eggs hatch, half of the newborn animals are taken to the zoo and raised in captivity for 3 or 4 years, enough time for them to attain the size necessary to confront the dangers of the Hellshires.
So you can see it was,
When Edwin comes to visit Nadine Thompson, the zoo director, they decide which young iguanas can be set free. They also study the area needed for the new eggs to be hatched.
And it will be a pleasure sending you baby in here. So take it easy and all the best, right?
Take care of yourself.
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
Three or four females share the same site. Once they've dug their hole and laid their eggs, they leave and come back 10 days later to see if all is well. That is, to check whether another female isn't setting up shop on her site. Very often, the newcomer experiences some intimidation. Head to head, they size each other up and test one another. The females will stop at nothing to defend their future offspring.
So we still now is watching to see their aggressiveness. If they continue, we have to catch two of the most aggressive female, that is like Debbie and Rima, to put them aside for a little time to allow the new female to really lay, because if not, those new female we probably find different little small holes in outer area, lay, then we don't get the clutch. Once a female doesn't guard properly from its nest, this female can come up, and this is how they destroy the eggs that already lay, the female that already lay before, and this is how we lose our amount of young babies. So guarding is good from the female. Watching from the individual like myself, it's good to avoid continuous fighting, to avoid female from cover whenever time they lay. So we don't want to lose our egg in doing things like this, because when they dig up like this, because this will completely destroy the whole situation.
During the egg-laying period, in addition to guarding the sites, Edwin has to capture the females so they can undergo blood tests. At his Hellshires campsite, Edwin receives all the reptile specialists from the United States.
Mr. Duffus, good job. Another iguana, the last one.
Rick Hudson is one of these. A biologist with the Fort Worth, Texas Zoo, he is fascinated by wild iguanas and by Edwin's stories.
They get mad.
Yeah, and they start to get worried.
But she had a transponder, right?
She did.
Well, yo, she's got a name according to that chart. Let's go look at it. I think the name said Debbie.
Now, Debbie's the first one. This is Rima.
Isn't that Carla? No dewlap tags.
You got her mouth right.
Mm-hmm.
She's got something in her armpit here that might just be skin.
You sure she's laid?
Yes. What you need to do is to just go and sit before iguana comes. And once you sit there and they come, easily catch them. Once this iguana started to steer, specify on you, what you need to do is just go like this. Just close your eye and they just stay like that. And then whenever time they move, then you open your eye back and shift your head down. Keep as quiet as possible. You catch him right there, because for the past years I've been catching them.
They
just
can
like
see eye movement, can't they? No, I think he's right.
Turn her over.
One of the things, Duffus, is that when we do all this testing on these animals before we release them to make sure they're healthy,
Yes, that's right.
we have all this information on captive iguanas. Edwin has been an integral part of all of these activities, and I will go so far as to say that without Edwin Duffus, much of what we do would not be possible. He is an invaluable guide to us here in the Hellshires Hills. He is an expert iguana catcher. He knows where the iguanas will be at a certain time. Without Edwin Duffus, we wouldn't have made the tremendous strides that this project has made over the years.
And then we have these two small females, which we see at the very beginning.
In charge of the iguana protection program in Jamaica is Dr. Peter Vogel, a herpetologist and a professor at West Indies University.
We never could find it, the nest.
Ever since Edwin discovered his first iguana, he and the professor have worked together. During sensitive periods such as laying and hatching, Peter sees Edwin once or twice a week to discuss matters and check how things are going. They share each other's knowledge. Peter has complete confidence in Edwin, who is the link between the world of science and the Hellshires. His knowledge of the hills is extraordinary. Peter is aware that without Edwin's intelligence and dedication, everything would take much longer to set up.
And this male is just lately shed. If you look at the lovely pretty blue colors that he has, just lately shed about a month ago. This color is beautiful.
Most of the time, Edwin works alone. Sometimes, however, Peter Vogel's students come to help out. One of them, Delano, comes to assist Edwin as soon as his schedule permits. For him, this is a unique experience. The mongoose is the principal cause of the Caribbean iguana's extinction. Imported by the Europeans in the second half of the 19th century to exterminate the rats which were destroying the sugarcane fields, it also went after the iguanas. There are hundreds of these small but terrifying carnivorous animals around, and capturing and killing them before they kill is vital.
If I wasn't here 1991, 90, right up to 98, there wouldn't be any iguana here because the mongoose would eat everyone. Because one day I want people to really know how the mongoose go about it. And this mongoose come and him started smell still, and after started smell, him go like this. Him started dig out. And there was a tail of a baby iguana. And that 7 mongoose came there and sit around here. And once they started to pick them out. And as they turn around, the next mongoose come. So I had to run up there the same time and run them, and it was about 7 mongoose. So when that mongoose come, he take all from that hole. And they know the time. Because the baby, when they lay, it carries out a rawness, a smell, which they know the smell. So they just keep smelling right around. And for that reason, they know where, and they know when is the hatching time. So they come twice. When it's laying and when it's hatching.
In the Hellshires, clearings are very rare and very much sought after, since that is where the females lay their eggs and where coal workers make their charcoal. Edwin has spent days explaining to the workers that what they do prevents the laying of eggs and therefore reproduction. Some, like Dredd, have agreed to move to the edge of the Hellshires.
Look for the best from you know, Rastaman.
Yeah, man, everything cool, man. See? Everything cool. Now watch nothing for we are protect everything. See? But we can't protect any man we are go up there and show them my vibes, boy. The man them a get terrible up there, you know. No one, no man up there, you know.
I'm going bad now, for right now, right now. So you know, so you better if you don't. So Dredd, me I run up your back.
Yes, man. Alright, sir. So now watch nothing, see?
Cool, you know?
Yeah.
This could be fairly good area for iguana. Fairly pretty good area. But after charcoal burn within this area, it's have to be over 5 years because iguana nest here. But before skill bed used to be here, it eventually used to be fairly good soil, nice soft soil. But once charcoal burn in the area, eventually that you notice it get tougher, harder to dig. So when iguana come and start to dig, iguana have to dig like this, and see that? It's a very tough surface, and it take a lot from them to get like this. So they eventually started digging, but they have to leave because it's so tough. If you want to take a look over here and the difference of the natural red soil we're in, here's the charcoal, it's fairly easier to dig. They will come over here and that, look like that. With soil like this, it's very hard for them, fairly hard. So the charcoal put a lot of effect on iguana nesting, very much, because it don't really work.
Before his encounter with the iguanas, Edwin loved to hunt wild boar in the Hellshires. He knows better than anyone the danger represented by hunting dogs. During a hunt, the dogs leave the paths and head for the bush, where they attack both small and large iguanas. It's impossible to train them to stay away from these reptiles. Edwin knows that protecting the iguana can never be successful without the hunters' cooperation. There again, he talks to them and appeals to their love of nature. Every year, more hunters are won over to his side, like Milton, for example.
We really want nobody to go. It's the east side. We don't want nobody to go to the side because there's lizard down there, and right now, we don't want the dog to come near because nesting iguana now, and within the nesting period, anything can happen. So we don't really want nobody to come near. So I'm so glad to see you.
Edwin and Dr. Vogel estimate the present number of Jamaican iguanas at about 200. Not bad for an animal which only 2 years ago was considered to be definitively extinct. However, the two men upon whom the entire protection program depends are not crying victory. The Jamaican iguana, like the lizard, is considered by scientists among the world's most endangered species. In addition to the mongoose, the coal workers, and the hunters, there is another terrible threat: real estate developers. Since the Hellshires are less than 100 kilometers from Kingston, the capital, and on the sea, real estate rumors are spreading. Peter and Edwin must now convince the authorities to proclaim the dry forest of the Hellshires Hills a protected territory, in order for it to be what it was before the Europeans arrived, a wildlife sanctuary.
I like so much thing about them. In the field here, they are my friend. Because for right now, when I'm alone is here, I could eventually move around them. In spite they don't really answer, but they react. Talk to them. Go close to them. Feed them. Especially when you're alone is here, you could look on an iguana and say, this is Dainty, this is Amy, this is Carla. You're just memorizing the whole system. Secondly, there's this big guy which named Duffus. That guy would come around and he's so close to you. You could take a good look at him. You could see him so close to you. And then on your way going back, you say, wow, I've seen about 6 iguanas today. Then you go back, Peter would call and you say, Peter say, what happened, Duffus? You see anything? I say, yes, I've seen 6 animals today. He said, which and which could you identify? Blah, blah. I say, yes, man, we could identify Carla, Debbie, Rima, you know, things like that. So it started giving my interest. And it's also given me a great privilege to out here, in spite sometimes, you know, like, there's a little loneliness might come, but as you know that there's not a second person at the present time, you have to just cheer up yourself, you know. So I'm happy amongst iguana, and I'm happy about going to and from with the project.